Okay. Jeden sagen Tilim für a kranker Besula und sie bringt a Mamser auf der Welt. So Jews were saying Tehillim for an ill young girl who brought a mamzer into the world, an illegitimate child into the world. Mamzerim in unserer Gegend seinen kein Neues nicht gewähnt. Illegitimate children in our area were not news. Asach Schicksals überhaupt die, was haben gedient beim städtelschen Poretz, haben gehabt Mamzerim. Und seine Eltern, die Poerim, haben sich davon wenig was gemacht. Überhaupt, wenn der Mamser ist gewesen ein Engel. So many Gentile girls, especially those who worked for the town noblemen, they had illegitimate children. And their parents, the peasants, didn't bother themselves very much about this, especially when the child was a little boy. Wenn a Mädel hat geboren a Mamzeres, ist schon ihr Schem gewinn nicht kein übrig Guter. When a young girl gave birth to a little girl, her name was no longer one of, she no longer had a good name. Doch hat man sich kein groß Wesen davon nicht gemacht. But nevertheless, they didn't make a great fuss about it. Aber als bei Jeden soll ein Mädel haben ein Kind, das hat man bei uns in Städtel nicht gehört. But that when a young girl would have a child, an unmarried woman would have a child, this was something that was unheard of in the Städtel. In einem Shabbos Vernacht hat ein Mädel mit Namen Pesse gehabt ein Kind. Und in Lenchen hat sich getan Cheuschech. One Shabbos evening, a young girl by the name of Pessa had a child. And in Lenchen hat sich getan Cheuschech. All hell broke loose. Erstens hat keiner sich nicht gericht, als ot die Pesse is Moberes. Firstly, no one imagined that this Pesse was in fact pregnant. Sie ist gewesen a Dienst in Warschau. She was a servant girl in Warsaw. Wenn sie ist zurückgekommen, hat sie also kunzig ausbehalten, jeden Simen von ihr Heuchen trocken. Und nicht nur haben Schreinim gar nicht gemerkt, nur auch viele nicht ihre eigenen Eltern. So when she came back from Warsaw, she hid so cleverly, she hid every sign of her late pregnancy that not even the neighbors noticed anything, but even her parents didn't notice. Wenn sie hat in einer Shabbos-Nacht noch ein Cholent, der fühlt sich krank und weggelegt sich krächzen, haben die Älteren gar nicht heuschig gewesen. One one Shabbos evening after Cholent, when she was feeling ill and she lay down moaning or groaning, her parents didn't suspect anything. Sie hat gesagt, als sie hat Krampen im Bauch. She said she had cramps in her stomach. Wenn die Weitiken haben nicht aufgehört, hat ihr Vater Herschel, was man hat ihm gerufen mit dem Zunamen Stock, zunächst gerufen Armenien Jeden und gegangen mit seinem Beschmetters sagen Tehillim für seine Tochter. So when the pains didn't let up, her father Herschel, who was they called with the nickname Stock, he got together a minion of Yidden, of Jews, and they went to the study house to say Psalms, Tehillim, for his daughter. Die Jiden haben gesagt, Tehillim und Maskil gewinn, die kranke Pesabas Eta. So these people said Psalms, recited Psalms, and they mentioned the name of the sick woman, Pesa Bat Eta. Wenn die Tehillim-Soger haben gehalten bei Machen am Mischaberach, hat sich a Bande Weiber reingerissen in Mokum Kodesh und geschrien. So when these Psalms reciters were busy saying a Mishaberach, a prayer for the health of this young girl, a group of women ran into this holy place and they shouted, Yidden, hert uf zogen Tehillim farazoina. People, stop saying Psalms for a loose woman. Pesa hat gehata mamzer. Pesa had an illegitimate child. Die Jiden seien geblieben stehen mit der nicht der Sogten Posuk in die Meiler. And the Jews in the synagogue remained standing with a half-recited verse in their mouths, in the middle of a verse. Herschel is rausgelaufen vom Beschmedres mit gebeulte Fäusten. Greit zu der Hargenen die Tochter seiner, was hat gebringt auf ihm Azabizoyen. Herschel went running out of the study house with clenched fists, ready to murder his daughter, who had brought such a shame upon him. 7 Tage Zeit ist das Städtel gegangen auf Räder. For 7 days, the town was in the grip of excitement. In Bishmedres und in Mikve, in die Yatkes und in Mark, a viele in die Chadorim, hat man gerät wegen Pesen und ihr Mamser, was sie hat abgespart in Warschau. So in the study house and in the mikveh, in the butcher shops and in the marketplace, even in the chadorim, the study schools where the children were studying, they were talking about Pesa and her illegitimate child, which she had saved up in Warsaw.
Es ist nicht gewesen der Fall, was Ott der Pesses Eltern seinen dus gewesen sellige bekommelt the light. And it wasn't because of that fact that Pesya's parents were very respectable people. Sachakol is their Herschel stock gewein verrechend voor dem ergsten in Stutt. As a matter of fact, Herschel stock was considered the worst guy in the town. Is gewein a Yid, a Schläger. He was a violent Jew, like to beat people up. Was Tomer hat men ihm ungeriert, and if you started up with him, hat geschlagen, Makes Reutze. He would give out deathly beatings.
That's what is Ritzeach. The beatings of a murderer.
Like killing, right?
Yeah, Ritzeach is a murderer.
Yeah. Murderous blows. He would deliver murderous blows. Min hat auf ihm gemurmelt. People talked about him as is nicht stark upgehieten bei Käufen hinner von Zigeuner. People talked about him that he was not very careful about buying chickens from gypsies, and I suppose because the gypsies would have stole them. Hagamer hat sich mishayer gewein. Even though he mishayer gewein it was understood
as guessed. Yeah.
It was supposed to something as
he guessed, yeah.
Oh, she guessed as the Eufe seinen bei die Zigeuner Eufen Mist nicht gewachsen, that those fowls didn't just grow up out of the dirt. Min hat verschieden gerät auf der Stark Mishpocha, and he said other things about the Stark family. Aber doch is Herschel gewein a Yid, but Herschel was a Jew. Was hat upgehiet Shabbos. He was a Jew that observed the Sabbath. Nicht durchgelost kein davening. He didn't leave off davening.
He didn't omit.
He didn't omit davening, his davening. Und Chotsch is gewein a bittere man, and even though he was a bitterly poor man, der größter man in Stettel, probably the biggest poor man in the Stettel, the poorest man in the Stettel, hat upgespart von Essen und Halten seine Jingelach. He stopped eating.
He denied himself food, I think.
Okay, he denied himself food.
Actually, he saved up from the food. It's the same word, absparen, which we had before.
And he took care of his kids. Feivischl und Schleumele, that's what their names, Feivischl and Schleumele. In Cheder, hat euch...
No, in Cheder, period. He supported their
in
their tuition.
Cheder. Okay. Oh, he supplied their tuition in the Cheder. Hat euch gedavend auf dem Call in Beis Midrash. And he davened out loud, not just to himself, in the Beis Midrash. Und in Yomim Neroim pflegt sich schlugen in Herzen rein. In the holy days, he would beat his heart it, he would beat his chest by the al-chetz mit der Zakoyach when it came to the al-chet, to the sins.
Now, the al-chet is something they say on Yom Kippur. Al-chet shechatanu lefanecha.
Al-chet shechatanu. So when he said it with such strength while he was beating himself on his chest. As pflegt sich schlugen in Hartsnarein by the, min pflegt Herren die Klepp über den ganzen Mokum Kodesh. You could hear the blows to his chest throughout the whole synagogue. Hat euch Achtung gegeben, als seine Jüngelach die Zelozene, Feivischel, and Shloimela. He also made sure that his hooligan children, Feivischel and Shloimela, sollen Achtung.
No, next line.
Okay, I'm reading. It's very small. Sollen. Maybe I should read from there, but I can't. Okay, sollen Davenen und noch suchen Baruchu und Baruch Shemo, so that they after the davening they should add blessed be he and blessed be his name. Amen. Then a Magid pflegt kommen in Städtel und zonen sich und
zerlassen sich.
Und zerlassen sich wegen Gehennem. When an itinerant preacher used to come in the shtetl und zu losen sich wegen Gehennem, in welcher man brennt und man brut die Sündige, and when he would talk about Gehennem, the hell, in which we would burn and roast the sinners, vielleicht Herschel auslosen a zellige schwere Sitzen. Herschel would let out such hard sighs von sein breiter, mächtige Brust, from his wide, mighty chest, as his hot a Stein geriert. It would have moved the stone. Warum was der Herschel hat nicht getun beim Ausarbeiten a Stickel Brot? Because what Herschel did just to work and earn a bit of some bread for Weib und Kinder, for his wife and children, aber a Yid is gewähnt. He would do what he can, everything to earn for his wife and children, but a Jew, but he was at heart a Jew. A Yid was by sein ganzer Amhorazus. Amhorazus, well, a Jew, despite his being an Amhoritz, what would you say that in English?
Ignoramus.
So being an ignoramus, Jewish-wise, hat der Meure gehabt vor Gott. He feared God und upgehitten a Sach mitzvahs, and he carried out many mitzvahs. Und is gewähnt stark zerbrochen über der Sinn von sein Tochter, and he was very broken up by the sin of his daughter. Die Busche seine is gewähnt groß. His shame was great. Warum umetum haben Weiber gerett? Because his shame was great. Because everywhere the women talked about gescholten und gesiedelt. The women cursed and insulted, and the the women cursed and insulted, und die Mannsspielen haben gelacht, and the men laughed at it, und die Hedejinglich haben gespat und gestellt sich hinter Pesjes Fenster, and the Hater boys, they made fun, and they went on, they stood under, I guess, Pesjes window, Pesjes Fenster, Kriya Shema Lenin, to when they had to do the Shema, the Kriya Shema. They did it under her window. Versteht sich, I think that's what boys did after a bris.
Well, read the next sentence.
Were called to do Kriya Shema.
Yeah, but perhaps, but look at the next sentence.
Versteht sich, as the Kriya Shema is gewähnt in Choizek, but the Kriya Shema was done making fun. Mit übergedrehte Werte, and they purposely mixed up the words. El Melech Kachgadrelach. El Melech is Hebrew, God Almighty. Kachgadrelach, duck turns around. Mira bright. Dir dem toit, a bread for me, death for you. Mir a frische joich, dir a makkerin boich. A fresh soup for me, and for you, a sickness in your stomach, a plague in your stomach. Well, but I think that was a custom I've read in other things with the Cheder boys were called to do the Kriya Shema at a bris, so as making fun of that, they went under they made fun under his window. They didn't go to do this Kriya Shema there. In gewöhnliche Zeiten wollt Herschel und seine Jüngerlich gemäßigt Jeden. In usual times, Herschel and his sons gemäßigt Jeden. They would beat up everyone. Was gewagt abzuspäten von ihm und sein Hausgesinn. They would have beat up anybody. Something about his who tried to do something against his household. Aber zu lieb dem Unglück, but because of this bad thing that happened to them, is gelegen ach neuedig by sich in Stub. He just lay down completely in his
submissively.
What?
Hachnodik is submissively.
Oh, submissive, abjectly.
That's it.
Yeah, abjectly. By sich in Stub, and in his house, he would lie down abjectly in his house. Una viele die Tier nicht geöffnet, and wouldn't even have opened the door.
Now, I just found, before you go ahead, I was just looking this up, and I found the night prior to the bris, it is a beautiful custom for children to come to the house of the newborn and recite the Shema Yisrael. We give the children sweets to encourage them. So you've got it exactly right there.
Right. So this was making fun of that custom, turning it on its head. Okay. Noch etliche Tag verschlissen sich in Haus. After a few days of locking himself in the house, is a gebeugener gekommen zu mein Taten in Stub. He came all bent over to my father in the house. Sein ständig starke Bord und Wanzen, his usually strong-looking beard and mustache, was haben ihm zugegeben a Gewure von a Leib, which made him look like a strong lion. Seinen Gewein zerschäubert, they were all disheveled. Upgelossen, drooping. Sein mächtige Körper, his mighty body, is Gewein gebeugen, was all bent over. Sein fest call gebrochen, his strong voice was broken. Rav hat gesifft. Those Kind is a Yingle, Rabbi. He sighed. This child is a little boy. Maidman is Yiddischen Sinnish. Can we do the Jewish ceremony of bris or not? Want me to read more or what?
And Yiddish in here, as you say, it means to circumcise.
Circumcised.
Yeah, I'll take over if you'd like. Or
Okay.
Yeah. Avada darf man es mal sein und machen a bris. Of course, you should circumcise and make a bris. Hat der Tate gepaskent. Father adjudicated. Ich will kommen auf ein bris und mitbringen a moil und a minion Yidden. I'll come to the bris and I'll bring along a moil, a circumciser, and a minion of Jews. Rebbe, lasst mich kuschen euer Hand, hat der Yid gesagt. Rebbe, let me kiss your hand, the fellow said. Rebbe, ich bin nicht wert. Rebbe, I am unworthy. Cholila, Reb Hirsch, hat der Tate gesagt. God forbid, Reb Hirsch, father answered. A Yid tarnish kuschen die Hand von a Yid. A Jew shouldn't be kissing the hand of another Jew. Und weint nicht, Reb Hirsch, and don't cry, Reb Hirsch. Ich will schon kommen mit a Moil und a Minion Yidden auf dem Bris. I'll be right there with a Moil and a minion of Jews for the Bris. Ich bin mitgegangen mit den Taten auf ot dem österlichen Bris. I went along with father to this unusual bris. Die Kimpeterin is gelegen hinter a Leilech in der Ormer Stub. The woman who had given birth was lying behind a sheet in a poor house, was hat bloß gehat a nackten Tisch und Bank, which only had an empty, naked, literally, table and chairs. Zwei gefarbte Hilzerne Betten, two unpainted wooden beds, und auf die Wand a Sach Fotografies von Herschlin in sein sellnerischen Uniform. And on the walls, a lot of photographs of Herschel in his soldier uniform von der Zeit, wenn hat gedient von jen, from the time when he served the Russian army. Der Minion Yidden hat sich geeilt. The minion of Jews hurried up. Sie seien nicht gewinn ganz sicher, sie dürfen noch sagen Amen nach die Brachas von Treffen im Bris. They weren't entirely sure whether they should respond Amen after the blessings of this non-kosher bris. Herschel hat gestammelt, wenn hat gedarft sagen, was für ein Nomen zu geben der Mamser. Herschel stuttered when he was supposed to say what sort of a name to give the bastard. Endlich hat mein Tata allein ausgetracht Nomen. Finally, my father himself thought up a name. Avram, wie man geht das auch in Ager. We'll call him Abraham, as you give such a name to a convert. Vayikra Shmoi B'Yisrael Avram ben. His name should be called in Israel Avram, the son of. hat der Moel gesagt, the circumciser said, und Greg gewann nicht anzurufen dem Taten, weil hat nicht gewusst, wer der Tate ist gewesen. He was not, and he was ready not even to mention the name of the father because he didn't even know who the father was, so Ben who. Aber mit einmal hat Herschel sich ausgegleicht und angerufen der Taten. But suddenly Herschel straightened himself up and he named a father. Avram ben Zala, hat gesagt euch. Abraham, the son of Zala, he said loudly. Yeah, ben Zala, the son of Zala. Next page. Zala's gewend der Chosen von Pesse der Kimpeterin. Zala was the groom of Pessa, who had given birth, a Bocher a Schneider. He was a lad, a tailor, a kurzgepackter, bräunhäutiger, ausgedienter Zellner. He was kurzgepackt. I think that would just mean short-statured, brown-skinned soldier who had finished his service. Was die Backen seine, welche vielleicht Gollen von Erev Shabbos zu Erev Shabbos, seinen ständig gewährt aschbläu von schwarzer Bewachsenkeit, whose cheeks, which he used to shave from one Friday to the next, were always ash blue because of a dark growth of whiskers. Ist gewesen der Sohn von Benjamin Schneider. He was the son of Benjamin Taylor. Was lieb sein Schwarzkeit hat man ihm gerufen mit dem Zunamen Zigeuner, who, because of his dark skin, they used to call with the nickname Gypsy. Und wie sein Kalle Pesse hat geteinet, hat sie gehat das Kind von ihr Chosen. And according to what his bride, Pessa, claimed, she had the child from her groom. I guess they were not yet married, but that's her claim that they were together before the marriage. Zala hat gelekend Stein and Bein. Now Zala denied this. Stein and Bein, literally stone and bone. He completely denied it. Und gleich reingeschickt Sogen die Machatonim, als lost up dem Shidduch mit der Kala. And he immediately sent word to his in-laws that he was setting aside this arranged marriage mit der Kala, with this bride. Was hat heimgebracht a Peckel in Fartach von Varsha, who had brought home a baggage in her apron from Warsaw, wo sie hat gedient, where she had been a servant. Es hat sich angeheben a bittere Milchome zwischen die zwei Mishpachos. There began a bitter war between the two families, die Stocks and the Zigeuners, the Stocks and the Gypsies. Das erste ist man gekommen zu den Teure zu mein Vater. Now, first, it came to a rabbinic judgment to my father. In a noch Sukkosavent, noch Mincha, Umayrev, seine gekommen beide zu wachsenen Mishpachos. In an evening after Sukkot, so it was October or so, after the afternoon and evening prayers, there came both of the enlarged families, Zerwachsene. I guess the entire families came. Von ein Seite is gesessen Herschel Stock. On one side, there was sitting Herschel Stock, ungetan in a kurzer Kapotte, dressed in a short Kapotte, was es nicht gewinn gemacht auf sein Moss, which had not been made really to his measure. At die Kapotte hat der armer Herschel gekrogen a Matone von städtischen Nugget, Rabbi Ashua. This particular Kapotte, the poor fellow Herschel had received as a gift from the town rich man, Rabbi Yoshua. Aber azoi, wie der Ormen Herschel, ist gewinnt viel hecher und breiter wie der Noged Rabbi Yoshua. But seeing as this poor Herschel was a lot taller and wider than the rich man, Rabbi Yoshua, hat die negidische gehackte Kapotte geplatzt in die Net. The rich man's kapotte, his cut short kapotte, it split in the seam of Herschel's savachsene places, on Herschel's grown or wide shoulders. The Arbel seinen gewinn kurz. The sleeves were short. Also as Herschel's horreke Hand seinen umgelumpert herausgekrochen. So that Herschel's hairy hands were creeped out of it. They extended out of it in umgelumpert in an awkward fashion. Das Komischste, the most comic thing, is given mit dem Spalt von hinten. Had to do with the what's it called? The vent in back. Gewöhnlich darf sich der Spalt ungeheben von Rücken. Usually, this vent should begin at the Rücken, the backbone. Aber bei dem Heuchen Herschel hat sich der Spalt angeheben in Mittenplätze. But at the tall Herschel, it actually began in the middle of his shoulders. Die zwei beinerdicke Knäpplich über dem Spalt haben noch besonders untergestrochen. The two bone buttons over this, there's a better word, I'm not a tailor, what's the word for this Spalt? In the back of a coat where there's a separation point. Anyway, they call it the Spalt. The two bone buttons over the Spalt, they still especially pointed out as the Kapotte is a Geschenkte, that this was a gifted Kapotte. Leben Herschlin is gesessen sein Weib, and next to Herschel was seated his wife, Etta, der schlogene Orme Jidene, a poor and depressed, beaten down woman. Zerknetscht von viel Hobben und Trogen. She was wrinkled from having borne so many, Hobben and Trogen most likely means having had so many children, und von ewiger Neid, and from continual neediness. Zwischen die Tate Mama ist gesessen die Tochter Pesse. Between Tate and father and mother was sitting the daughter Pesse. Was hat gebracht Charpes und Busches auf ihre Mischpache, who had brought disgrace and embarrassment to her family. Sie ist gewinnt kerndick und gesund und weiblich zu wachsen. She was vigorous and healthy and grown as a woman and womanly. Sie hat getragen a groß stottischen plüschenem Jackett mit breite Buffenarbel. She was wearing a stottischen. She was wearing in the manner of big cities a jacket. Now plüsch is a material. It's plush, I guess. Plüsch, I've got it here as velvet.
Velvet, maybe?
Yeah, it is velvet, or yeah. She was wearing a big city-like velvet jacket with broad Buffenarbel. Arbel is sleeves. I'm not sure what boof is here. I'm just looking it up here. Don't see it.
Like puffy sleeves?
It's possible, yeah. Baziert mit glanzige Pacherkes, decorated with shining Pacherkes. Patriarchs are beads or pearls. Ihre gedichte Haar, was haben herausgeguckt von der Schal, her thick hair, which was visible, it peeked out of her shawl, was sie hat angetan zu Liebsnias in the Rav's house, which she had put on for the sake of modesty in the rabbi's house. Haben geblischtet mit sehr tiefer Schwarzkeit. Her hair was gleaming with its deep, dark blackness, so black that it gleamed. Sie ist gewesen blass nach der Kimpet. She was still pale after giving birth. That word kimpet, by the way, comes from kind bet, child bed, that kimpet, childbirth. Aber die Blasskeit hat ihr zugegeben noch mehr Rein. But this paleness added to her beauty. Ihre kräftige Zähne haben geleuchtet mit sehr ungeheurer Weisheit. Her strong teeth gleamed with their unusual whiteness. Die arm gekleidete Mutter, the poorly dressed mother, was hat noch nebbig ausgesehen, neben der ausgezierter Tochter, who looked even more nebbig next to her dressed up daughter, hat gehalten in ein Glätten die Buffelarbel von der Pessen. She kept on caressing these sleeves, the Buffenarbel of her daughter Pesse. Wie unter zu streichen ihr mutterlich Gefühl for der Tochter, as if to emphasize her motherly feeling towards her daughter. Was ist nebech verführt geworden von der Chassenzala, who was, poor soul, led astray by her groom, Zale. That's Rals, von zweiten Sad.
Von zweiten Sad ist gesessen Benjamin Schneider. On the other side was sitting Benjamin the tailor, a Yid mit a punem brown wie chocolate, a Jew with a face brown as chocolate, mit a coil schwarzer Bord with a coal black beard, feierdicke Feierdicke, oh, and fiery eyes, bright eyes, was haben geschreift als sich, which
Geschreifet. Schreife is a conflagration.
They fired up. They everything.
Up.
They lighted up everything around them. So schwarz wie der Vater is gewesen sein Sohn, as dark as the father was also his son, Zola. That's Zola. Und die Iberike der wachsene Sinn and the other grown-up sons was seinen mitgekommen zu der Din Torah, who were there also for the Din Torah, for the decision, the rabbinical decision. The
Binyaminche, the wife of Binyamin. Binyaminche.
Oh, die Binyaminche, Mrs. Benjamin, hat gehalten in ein Säumen die heiße Männer ihre. And Mrs. Benjamin kept on trying to restrain her heated up the men in her family, der Mann und die Zin, her husband and her sons, was haben gesotten von Zorn und Hass, which they gesotten.
Zitten is gesotten, boil.
They boiled from Surus and hate.
No,
They were
Zorin is anger.
from anger and hate. Von aller Seiten haben Weiber gestürmt, gestürmt. From all sides, women crowded in, und gehabt Blicken durch die Fenster, and they looked at one another through the they looked at things through the window. Kidei aufzuhaben a Wort von Ot der österlicher Dien Torah, to see if they could catch a word of this strange Torah decision. Die Jünglich von beide Zeduden, the little boys from both sides of the conflict, Herschel, Feivischel und Schleumele, Herschela and Fivela and Schleumele.
No, Herschel's, the sons of Herschel, Feivischel and Schleumele.
And Herschel's boys, Fivela and Schleumele. Benjamin's Zigeinerlich and Benjamin's little gypsies haben sich geseder reingerissen zu uns in Stub. They wanted to rush into us rush into the house.
No, they kept Keseder continually.
Continuing trying to get into the house. Hotch min hot zij getrieben, even though they threw them out, weil Jüngerlich darfen in azellige Sachen sich nicht mischen, because the little boys should not be involved in such things.
Reingerissen, does that sort of mean like they tore into the house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Should I go on or somebody?
Please, yeah, please go ahead.
Jeden nicht.
No, you skipped a paragraph.
Mein Vater hat genommen Herren die Zedudim. My father began to hear both sides of the conflict. Aber es ist gewesen, unmöglich etwas zu dergehen. But it was impossible to get by it, weil ein Zad hat sich reingerissen dem Zweiten in die Red, while one side called out against what the other interrupted what the others said. Gelarmt, gewoldet, gehäuben Fäusten. They called out, they yelled Gewalt, and they put up their fists. Zu viel Sinne und Kass is gewesen ungesammelt. Too much hatred and anger was mixed together, sufficient dimension among the family members. Jeden nicht in Beis Din Stuhl, Jews not in a Beis Din place, hat mein Vater sich gebeten, my father begged. Ich will jeden losen gleich austeinen sich. I'll give everybody a chance to tell their side. Aber soll einer nicht überreißen dem anderen. But one should not interrupt the other. As men steht vor Beis Din, is wie men steht vor Gott. If you're standing before the Beis Din, it's like you're standing before God. Zuk die Torah, the Torah says. Men darf derech eretz. You have to have a little respect. Oh.
All right, I'll take over at this point then. Thanks. Binyamin's Weib hat mit alle Keuches probiert zäumen, zerkochten Mann. Binyamin's wife, with all of her strength, tried to restrain her her husband, who was zerkocht, who was inflamed. Aber kein Sach hat nicht gekannt abhalten das Feuer. But nothing was able to restrain, to hold back the fire, was hat geflackert in dem bräunhäutigen, schwarzäugigen Jeden, that was flaming up in this brown-skinned, dark-eyed fellow, was hat gehabt a temperament von a Vulkan, who had the temperament of a volcano. Azoi seinen gewinn seine Sinn, and that's how his sons were. Was alle haben sie gearbeitet beim Vater in sein Tandet-Schneiderei, all of whom were workers at their father's place of employment in his Tandet Schneiderei. A Tandet is old clothes, so it's his or it's poorly made. It's a Schneiderei here, of course, is a tailor shop. So in his tailor shop, and Tandet usually means of either old clothes or poorly made clothes.
Maybe used clothes tailor shop.
It could be, yeah. Mit mein Zahlen nicht anhängen kein Lungenleber auf der Neus, hat Benjamin geschrien. Benjamin shouted out, "You're not going to hang a lung and a liver on the nose of my Zala." That is, you're not going to make him out for a fool. Sie hat abgesport der Mamser in der deutscher Kirche, wo sie hat gedient in Warschau. She, again, we have this absporen. So maybe I'll translate it as she acquired here. She acquired this bastard in the German kitchen where she was serving in Warsaw. And Deutschisch doesn't really mean German. It means a Jewish home where people were overly modern. A deutsche Kirche hat man gerufen a Haus von treffenden Juden. It's an explanation here. A German kitchen is what they called a house of non-kosher Jews, was hitten nicht ob kashrus, who were not observing the rules of kosher. Nein, es ist dein Kind, Zaleshi, hat Pesse geschrien. No, it's your kid, little dear Zale, Pesse shouted. Hast sich zugeeilt, hast mich übergerät mit deiner treffenden Redlich. You were in such a hurry. You convinced me with your non-kosher little speeches. Jetzt willst du sich herausdrehen. Now you're trying to get out of it, to twist out of it. Aber es wird dir nicht gehen, but it's not going to work. Hast geschrieben Tnoim mit mir. You, after all, have written a marriage contract with me, engagements, Tnoim or conditions.
I don't think they were married. I think they were engaged.
That's right. Tnoim is engagement. That's right. After all, you've written the Tnoim for me. Yeah, this is all. They are chas and kala, which means they are not yet married.
Right.
Ich will nicht losen verschämen mein Eugen Kopf, hat Herschel geschrien von sein Seite. I'm not going to let the eye of my head, he's referring to his son, be embarrassed. Herschel shouted out on his side, Hast verkochte Kasche, esuf. You've made your bed, now sleep in it. Well, literally, you've burnt the porridge, eat it up. Ich fordere Chassene. Sei Tate zu dein Kind, Goslin. I demand that you get married. Be a father to your child, you robber. That's the bride's father, of course. Alle Iberike von die Mishpoches haben geschrien, einer auf den anderen. All the other members of the families were shouting, one over the other. Gedrot sich gegenseitig. Gehabt sich schlagen. They Now, drohen is to threaten. They threatened on each side against each other. They got ready to beat them up. Nach Schoen geschreien, seien sie weg mit gar nicht. After hours of screaming, they left with nothing. Es ist nicht gewesen, keine Möglichkeit, auszugleichen wie Machleuke zwischen die zwei eingesperrte, heißblütige und arme Mischpaches. It was impossible to straighten out, to come to terms with this dispute between these two stubborn, hot-blooded, and poor families. Endlich is Pesa weg in Warschau. Finally, Pesa went back to Warsaw, während an Am in a Reichhaus, to become a nursemaid in a rich house. Ihr nicht kosher Kind is geblieben bei ihrer Eltern. Her not kosher child remained at her parents' house. Welche haben es allemal auf Snai geschickt zu Zahlen, und Zala hat es zurückgeschickt zu sie. They, who kept every time anew, sending it to Zala, and Zala was sending it back to them. Das erste Mal hat Herschel geschickt sein Enekel am Matane seine Machatanim lekovid Purim. The first time that Herschel sent his grandson as a gift to his in-laws was in honor of Purim. Wenn Benjamin Schneider is gesessen mit sein zwachsener Mishpacha beim größten Schneidertisch, when Benjamin the tailor was sitting with his grown-up family at the big tailor's table, und gepravata Purim de Kasuda, and was holding his Purim feast in the afternoon of Purim, hat sich geöffnet die Tür, und Feiverschel und Schleimele haben da reingetragen a Peckel, und es weggelegt. Feivish and Schleimer brought in a little package, and they set it down. Der Tata hat geschickt Shalach Monas. Father has sent you Shalach Monas, a gift of food, a Shalach Monas, a Purim gift. Haben sie gesagt, gich, und rausgelaufen bezeitens. They said it quickly, and they ran away in time. Eder Zala vet ze brechen die Beine, before Zala could beat them up. Der Shalach Monas hat geweint, mit a bitter kinderisch geweint. The Shalach Monas started crying with a bitter, childish cry. And maybe that's a good place to stop for today.